who worked so hard to get things equal for everyone. Through history, many fantastic leaders have taken a stand and shown bravery and courage, from segregation to discrimination to war and peace. These leaders persevered and did whatever it took to make the change they felt was needed. F.W. de Klerk was one of those leaders. He was a great man who took a stand against a century of segregation. He did not believe that people should face discrimination due to the color of their skin. He had one vision, which incorporated the ending of apartheid and extending equality throughout South Africa. Born March 18, 1936, F.W. de Klerk was an outstanding male politician who held the South African presidency from 1989 to 1994. By 1993, de Klerk had won the Nobel Peace Prize, the Time Person of the Year, and the Philadelphia Liberty Medal, and the Prince of Austria's Award for International Cooperation. In April 1994, the first democratic elections in the history of South Africa were held. The first party was Nelson Mandela. The second party was F.W. de Klerk. F.W. de Klerk was the one who freed Nelson Mandela from prison on February 11, 1990. It was de Klerk working through the political process who brought the apartheid system of racial segregation to an end.
Released at the Victor Verster prison on Sunday, the 11th of February, at about 3 p.m. Yesterday evening, I met with Mr. Mandela in Cape Town, together with Ministers Viljoen and Coetzee. During the meeting, Mr. Mandela was informed of the government's decision regarding his release. We would all like Mr. Mandela's release to take place in a dignified and orderly manner. To attain this, government officials are at the moment involved in discussions with parties concerned in order to afford them the opportunity to make suitable arrangements. Two issues were also raised during the discussions between me and Mr. Mandela, namely the state of emergency and the position of persons serving sentences for politically motivated crimes, as well as those who have committed such crimes and who are now outside the country. I stressed the importance of creating conditions which would enable me to lift the state of emergency without jeopardizing the maintenance of law and order.
The apartheid was a political and social system in South Africa while it was under white minority rule. The system consisted of a set of laws that were forced onto the black population of South Africa. These laws included a separate Representation of Voters Act No. 46 of 1951, which together with the 1956 amendment led to the removal of colors from the Common Voters Roll. Another law was the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act, Act No. 55 of 1949, which was a law that stated white people could not marry of other races. 75 mixed marriages were recorded compared with some 28,000 recorded white marriages. The Group Areas Act, Act No. 41 of 1950, this rule forced physical separation between races by creating different residential areas. Many other laws were enforced upon this rule. One law was influenced among education as an extension. The Law Extension of University Education Act, which was Act 45 of 1959, includes the law that the legislation puts an end to black students attending white universities, which meant that black Africans were only allowed to continue their education throughout high school, unlike white Africans who had a choice to continue education after high school. F.W. de Klerk began his political career as he was elected to Parliament as a member of the National Party in 1972. During the next few years, de Klerk spent his time giving a different perspective on racial segregation. On February 2, 1989, de Klerk is elected National Leader of the National Party, as well as being sworn in as President on September 15th. He was President of South Africa from 1989 to 1994. On November 17, 1993, F.W. de Klerk, among other leaders, revived the Constitution by putting an end to the apartheid system. Nelson Mandela contributed to the bringing down of apartheid alongside F.W. de Klerk. In 1942, he helped found the African National Congress until it was later banned. Mandela was sent to prison in 1956 and then joined 155 others on trial for treason. De Klerk soon freed Mandela and they worked together to influence the people of South Africa to stop racial segregation.
thank Deputy President F.W. de Klerk and his colleagues for the constructive role that they have played. I am confident that we shall continue to work together in pursuit of the country's interests, and that their withdrawal will have the effect of strengthening rather than weakening their commitment.
Apartheid was an unfair living power over native South Africans. The black population that had lived within South Africa were not treated fairly during this time period. They were being beaten to being starved. They were being discriminated against and were called names. Black Africans were the least liked and cared for people in South Africa. The white Africans within South Africa showed that they did not care for these people through apartheid. They dictated the living conditions of black Africans and terrorized anything that they could call their own. The black African people had nothing and were treated like nothing. They were shown no gratitude for the work they were forced into. This led the black African people to begin a revolt. F.W. de Klerk spent his whole life trying to show the world how unfair defining somebody by their race was. Through his presidency, he has been able to influence the people of South Africa to prove that apartheid should have been taken down prior to when Mandela was imprisoned. F.W. de Klerk wasn't going to allow the people to feel harmed over something that shows that they are better.